Welcome to Castles to Cauldrons, where every journey starts with a little bit of magic.
Welcome to episode 19 of Castles to Cauldrons. I'm your host, Jason Davis. I'm here with Rachel, Micah, and Terry, and we're joined today by Taylor. Once again, we are glad to have you back, Taylor.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. I'm excited to be back with you guys.
We're going to talk a little bit of runDisney with her later. She did her first runDisney race a couple of weeks ago. Almost a month ago, right? Just over a month.
Yeah. Yep. End of February.
First, we got a few little tidbits of news that we want to touch on. First one is pretty big. Today is 70 days until Epic Universe, the day we're recording this, until Epic Universe opens. And the one-day ticket sales went online only for June 1st and beyond. They're a little pricey. They started at 160, if I remember right. And they were going all the way up to 190.
Yeah, I was looking at some dates in the middle of June, and it's like 185 a person for those dates.
Yeah, July was looking like 190 in the middle of July per person.
I think it's going to be worth it, no matter what. Taylor, you have an annual pass too, right, to Universal?
Yes, I do.
So we can get our tickets for like, I think it was like 70, 80 bucks when I bought mine.
Yeah, it was definitely a whole lot less.
Other than that, there hasn't been really much of Epic Universe happenings. They've done team member previews for the past couple of weeks, so they're fixing to start on team member and friends. I want to say next week is what I saw, and it looks like they're all having fun. We're hearing a bunch of stuff though from Monsters Unchained. Have y'all listened to any of that stuff going on with that?
No, I'm trying to not see as much because I want it to be a little bit of a surprise whenever I finally get to go.
What I'm saying is that the Monsters Unchained ride is like the best ride, not just the park, but possibly Orlando. So that's really cool for me. That's one of the rides I'm super excited to see.
What exactly does this ride entail?
The monsters, the Universal monsters.
No, I mean, like, is it like a...
It's a Kuka on? You went on Hogwarts out there in Hollywood, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's the same ride mechanism.
Okay.
And then you're going to go through and all the monsters are trying to get released from... It's Frankenstein's like great granddaughter, and she's doing all the experiments on the monsters. So you get caught up in all that.
That's what I'm most excited. Definitely. I love Forbidden Journey. I know that so many people get really motion sick on that ride, but it's my favorite Islands of Adventure. So to be able to have something like that in Dark Universe is going to be really cool.
It's also one of my favorite rides. I love that ride.
I have never been on it because I will throw up.
We'll go over to West Coast for a few seconds. Disneyland released a few things about the 70th anniversary. I know we talked a little bit last time, and it's not a lot. The biggest news coming from it is that Toy Story Midway Mania will be getting overlay. When they first brought this ride out, they said, hey, we're going to bring out overlays all the time. And I think this is only the second or third one they've done. They did one for Toy Story 3. I think, or Toy Story 4, and you get this one now. Coco's joining Small World, and then Duffy and Shelley May are coming over to Disneyland, probably to sell merchandise. And then all the characters are getting what I consider very ugly costumes. Agree, disagree?
Just because they look like they're from the 90s doesn't mean that they're ugly. We're just reusing the old styles.
They just designed them for 90s night and said, hey, these look good for the 70th too.
But everyone's doing 90s throwback now, so I wonder if like they're trying to cash in on that.
I'm sure.
What is the 70th anniversary like color? Platinum.
It's platinum?
Yeah. So
like you're talking like a wedding?
Yeah.
Like a wedding anniversary?
Because they did diamonds for the 60th and went all out on it. So why didn't you just do platinum all over Disneyland instead of these rainbow colors?
Platinum looks like silver.
Yeah, I was going to say, it would be hard to differentiate platinum from silver, and then it might look too like space-themed, astronaut-y. Like Tomorrowland.
Then you do an overhaul for Tomorrowland.
Well, that could work.
The 75th anniversary is diamond white.
See, I think 75 will be a bigger deal
because
it's just a better number.
Because they celebrate big for the 50th, they're going to celebrate big for the 75th, but it's just like I don't like any of the decorations. It looks like giant cookies, which might be what they're trying to go for.
I saw that.
So Disneyland's going to have where the Christmas tree goes. It's going to have Mickey and Minnie, the classic Mickey and Minnie with a 70th sign. There's going to be one outside the flower fountain in downtown Disney with Ariel and Flounder. There's going to be a huge eyesore of a castle looking thing in the Esplanade. And then they're still putting a 70th cookie thing in front of the train station.
A medallion?
Yeah.
Is that the word?
No, we need to call it a cookie.
It's a cookie.
It just needs to be a cookie.
A big cookie.
How much you want to bet they're going to sell sugar cookies that are decorated like this?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I would probably eat it because it looks good. The sign looks good, like I would eat it.
A giant one.
What about merch? What do y'all think about these merches?
Well, I like the magic band. I do see that. I think that's cool. The black with like the iridescent rainbow, like, yeah, I'm not like a huge fan.
I do like the picture they took for it because it's like they put the bubbles in front, so the bubbles have that same coloring of everything they have. So maybe they're trying to get that bubble look.
Almost like a you remember when that trend was going around for people's hair and they did the oil slick hair, like where it was like that dark color, like with that. That's kind of what that looks like. Is almost like that oil slick sheen to it.
I could see that.
That's kind of what it looks like, especially with that bubble in the front, like where they're trying to pull off those colors. That's kind of what it looks like. I want to see the back of the Spirit jersey.
It just says Disneyland Resort.
It does.
Yeah.
It's cute, but usually they do all the rainbow stuff in June for Pride. And that's kind of what it is pulling a little bit, is kind of like in that same line as like a lot of the Pride merch that they do. It's pretty. I like it.
I will say they didn't have a lot of cute jerseys when I was there. I wish they would have had this one out because the one I got was pink and it's like gold. It's very loud. My gaudy, I guess, might be, but it's not gaudy, but it's a bit more than I normally wear. But it was the cutest one they had. But I feel like these, like you said, I like the like rainbow colors on the back more than I like something that's like shiny or sparkly or something like that.
Yeah. And it looks like it is glittery. I mean, you can't zoom in on the picture really, but it looks like the Disneyland looks like it has like the glitter to it.
I do like that it's a whole lot different from any of the merch we've seen at Disney World, because that was my biggest complaint when I went to Disneyland last year is I have all of this at Disney World just with different words on it. So I like that it sets itself apart.
Same thing I thought when I was there. I was like, oh, because I've always liked the Disneyland lettering better than the Disney World. I just thought it looks better. But like you said, I was hoping that they would have more of a variety of things that you couldn't get on the East Coast. But a lot of it is just the same stuff with a different name.
Besides the merch, I like the ticket offer that they have going out.
Yes.
Either like a 3-day ticket, like a 3-day base ticket for $360, or a 4-day base ticket for $400. So you can get in the park for as little as $100 a day. I don't think that's a bad deal.
No.
And you don't they have an expiration, but you don't have to use them within the time frame of usual tickets, right?
It says will go on sale March 11th for visitation between May 16th and August 14th, 2025.
So you don't, if I remember reading it right, you don't have to actually use, like the first day of use, you don't use it and have 5 days to use the whole thing. You can use it all summer and come back and see it. So I think that's cool.
So you're saying it's non-consecutive days.
Right.
Right.
Gotcha. Which makes sense.
Yeah, tickets may be used on non-consecutive days.
That makes sense if more residents go there, I feel like, than where Florida's more of a vacation spot. So you're there for consecutive days. But Disneyland is more like, let's go on the weekend or let's take a Thursday and take the kids kind of situation. And to go all summer, like you said, for 4 days for $400 is not bad.
And you can upgrade it. You can upgrade it to a park hopper if you wanted to. But no, I think that's a great price.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to the merch, I hope they come out with like, or have pictures of like actual like ear headbands versus like both the things I've seen is like that conductor hat, and then the other one is like the the Mouseketeer like hat with the ears, and not like ears with a bow, because I feel like they could do something really pretty with that like rainbow color and the sparkles with a bow with the ears, or even do like a black sparkly bow with it.
I don't wear ears, but I'm glad to see that it's the picture they've put out isn't like the headband mini ears, because it's like as a guy, there's never really just here's some guy ears for you. It's always here's the bow in the middle, and I'm not a bow guy.
I do like the picture with the girl with the conductor hat. Like, I know we're on a podcast and you can't see, but that shirt looks sparkly. And I don't know if that's a Spirit jersey, but where it has Mickey and Minnie on it, I like that animation style of Mickey and Minnie.
Yes,
And I like that shirt. I like that color.
Yeah, I don't think it's a varsity jersey. I think you're right. I think it's just like a crew neck.
Yeah, I think
like a crew neck. And I really like it. And
Mhm.
it looks like it's almost sparkly on it. And I like and it looks like Mickey and Minnie are embroidered on it, possibly.
And
I love that.
has 90s vibes. Like that has like
Yeah.
1995. Your grandparents took you somewhere and you got a sweatshirt from that place, and it's got the big graphic on the front of wherever you went. Nothing subtle.
It's the Mickey and Minnie of when Disney World's castle was a pink cake.
We don't talk about
That's
that.
the same kind of graphic. Huh?
We don't talk about that. That was the worst time ever.
I didn't get
I
to
bet
go
for
to Disney World
kids it
when we
was
were poor.
great though.
I remember begging to go, and now that I look back, I'm like, I'm glad I didn't go.
See?
I will go back to the parks a little bit. I am excited to see how they light the park up at night. If they're going to light with a bunch of colors and whatnot. I think that's going to be fun. The whole theme is celebrate happy. But while we're on topic of Disney, they made an appearance for some reason at South by Southwest, which is a big marketing event that's in Houston every year. They gave some updates on rides and
Austin.
attractions. It's in Austin. Sorry. It's in Texas. That's all that matters.
I'm just glad I get to correct you on something Disney related because I never get to do that.
So Disney announced some of I won't say announce, but they talked about upcoming attractions and where they at in the process. Big announcement that we got a date with is Smuggler's Run. They're going to bring in a new Mando and Grogu ride for it starting Memorial Day weekend of next year.
I do have a question about this. Is it going to be like Star Tours where you could get the old storyline, or is it just going to be the like Mandalorian Grogu storyline for a certain period of time?
I think it's going to be a certain period of time, and then it'll be rotated. You will visit. So the current Smuggler's Run ride is you going to basically one planet and hijacking the coaxium crystals, however you say it. And this one, they said you're going to visit like Tatooine, the Death Star ruins around the moon of Endor, and there was one other location I can't remember off the top of my head. So I like that you're seeing new places on top of this. I just don't know why it's going to take a year and a half to debut.
I know you would think they would be able to just like kind of plug in a new video or whatever for the ride and then update the back end for the movements to go with it. So but aren't they having it come out the same time the Mandalorian movie's coming out?
They are. I mean, obviously they want to market correctly, but if it takes that long to do something, you can put something else in. We have a bunch
I was
of
gonna say, you think they could like sub another plot in there in between just so the ride doesn't get old to people. Like you want people to keep, like you said, like if they're rotating them, then you don't know which one you're getting. So you want to keep riding it to get all the different storylines. So like for now, if they just subbed in one different storyline.
Yeah, because I've done all the stories for Star Tours, but I don't ride it either.
See, but Kova likes Star Tours better than Smuggler's Run. Like he doesn't like the fact on Smuggler's Run that he has to push buttons. He likes to do Star Tours because he can get a different story, but also he just can sit there and enjoy the ride, and he doesn't feel like he has to do something.
He might be the rebel spy. Like that's the cool thing. Like, oh, I'm going to be the rebel spy this time.
I was behind a kid last time in Smuggler's Run, and so I was in the back, the engineer, which means he was in the center, so he was a gunner. Is that what they call him?
Mm-hmm.
And he was very overwhelmed and panicked. Like if he didn't do it, we were really gonna be in trouble. Like, and he kept looking at his mom, like, so I can understand like how a little kid would be like, this is a lot of pressure on me, right? This is not doesn't feel like a ride. Like it's so realistic that they feel overwhelmed. So I could see
Kova was a pilot the last time, and he came off and he's like, I did such a bad job flying. I didn't like that. I couldn't reach things. And I was like, they should not have put him up there. He wanted to, but then once he did it, he was like, I didn't like that at all. I didn't want to be in charge.
I've often wondered why cast members don't kind of cherry pick who goes where.
Well, it really doesn't matter.
Or if a kid asks,
the ride's going to end the same way.
You want the kid to enjoy the ride, so just like, hey, do you want to drive? And if the kid's like, no, then like, okay, well, we'll put an adult up there or something.
I've never been on it because I get so sick. I get so
you would
sick. I'll
probably
never be
get
on it.
sick because you don't do Star Tours either, right?
I've done Star Tours like once or twice, and while I'm on it, last time I was on it, I'm like, this is a huge mistake, and I was pretty sick when I got off. So I couldn't tell you.
Is it the glasses? Because it's like,
I even took off the glasses and I try to stare at one thing,
and it's
so like like it's moving, right? But like I try to stare at one thing, and
is it the lack of airflow in those little pods for Star Tours? I don't get motion sickness, but if it starts getting too warm, I do start queasy.
I mean, it could be like a mixture of things, like the movement, the screen. Like
my husband's the same way. He says Ratatouille and the Mickey and Minnie's Runaway are for him. Besides the teacups, he's like, those are the two words. He's like, I'll never go on Ratatouille again. He's like, he took his glasses off. He's like, I've never felt more sick after a ride anywhere I've ever been than after that ride. So he won't do that one anymore.
Yeah, I can't do the kitchen scene in Ratatouille.
Yeah, exactly.
And the Runaway Railroad, I can't do like the falling scene, like the waterfall scene. I like literally, I look down and I see the floor vent. And that's what I focus on while
I'm going to tell him that next. I'm like, find the floor vent. Just look at the floor vent the whole time.
That's what I did.
Can your husband do Cosmic Rewind?
He doesn't like it. He told me, he's like, after you did Harry Potter and Universal, he's like, you need to do Cosmic Rewind, because if you like that, then you'll like Cosmic Rewind a lot better. Because when he came off of it, he was like, it's fun, but if I don't ever go on it again, I won't be heartbroken.
Taylor, have you been in the park since Cosmic went regular standby?
I have not. No, I'm nervous for it. I watched the wait times the entire first day, and it was okay, but I don't know how I feel about it. I honestly didn't mind the virtual queue. I know that's a really unpopular opinion for a lot of people, but it guaranteed that you didn't have to wait more than like 45 minutes every time. So I don't care. I'll get up at 7 a.m. for that.
Well, back to Star Wars. Galaxy's Edge said that they will be getting the BDX droids, which were made famous from the Last Jedi game series that Rachel also loves to play. That's cool because the 3 of the droids are Huey, Dewey, and Louie, and then they've introduced, I think they call him Donald, or maybe Don or something like that, because it's blue and then the color of the nephews. And then one with one of the little aliens that fixes droids. So they're going to be coming to Disneyland for a little bit this summer. They're also going to Tokyo and Paris. Going over to Monsters Land, they gave us our first look at the ride system, which was pretty cool. This is going to be the first suspension and first vertical roller coaster for Disney. So that's a pretty big deal. You're going to get in the ride and then the kind of like an Omni Mover type situation where you just kind of step in and then you'll go up into the air and turn and then they'll launch you out.
That to me looks scary though, because I don't like drop ride type things. So like getting on and then it like taking you up and over. I don't know. I'm going to ride it, but that just kind of looks kind of scary.
Which they said in this presentation, they wanted you to have the feeling that you were a door. And I'm like, okay.
Right. Like you're being, in the movie, it shoots up pretty quick. So.
Yeah, this is Disney. It's probably going to shoot up at like 2 miles an hour. So it'll be going up for 10 minutes and the ride's going to be 30 seconds.
You mean it's not going to be like Tower of Terror? More than Tron?
Yeah,
like
I hope it's longer than Tron. But I'll take some Dramamine and I'll go on it.
Yeah. I'll go on it. I won't make it a point to go on every time I go. If it's a good coaster, it's a good coaster.
It looks cool. It doesn't look long though. Like when you look at because they kind of showed what the inside of the show building will be and kind of what the track is. It doesn't look super long. So it is kind of, in my opinion, giving like that Tron vibe of being a shorter roller coaster.
Do you think it'll have a virtual queue?
Yeah. It will probably be $40 for the Lightning Lane single pass.
If they even have that by that point, and it's not just Premier Pass.
Which I still hold strong to. Speaking of still hold strong to, they have talked about Cars Land also. It's not going so fast. We talked on the last podcast, the permits for demolition of Rivers of America were approved, but they still don't have a ride layout for Cars Land. So I don't see that Rivers, what we were talking about, Rivers closing before Halloween. I mean, it could possibly still, but I don't think we see that until the beginning of the year. Just because they don't have a firm grasp on what they're going to do for this ride yet.
Should we ask Taylor's opinion on if she thinks Villains Land's actually going to be a thing or not?
Yeah, what's your over under on Villains Land actually happening?
I do really think it's going to happen. I know you guys thought differently from the beginning about this. I'm only seeing that just because I am such a big Universal person and I know how highly anticipated that Dark Universe is. That's definitely what I'm most excited for to see over there. And I'm not even a monsters person. Me and HHN are not friends. I went once last year. It was not for me, but I'm so excited for that. So I feel like this is really Disney's only way of trying to mirror that and answer that. So I really do think it's going to happen. I don't know what the time frame is going to be. Like I'm not sitting here holding my breath on it, but I do think it's going to happen for sure.
Are we going to get you to HHN in September? Are you going to go
I
with
don't
us?
know. I mean, if everybody else is going, I guess I'll go. That's kind of my.
I plan on going, so we
Peer
can
pressure.
buddy up.
I don't want to go either, and they're making me.
We are not making you.
I stay on the sidewalk. I walked in between my friends and I just looked at the back of their head the whole time. So it worked. I didn't get scared. That was the goal. But did I take it all in? No.
Terry's going to do the whole, be the first person of our group walking through the house.
She's going to be our leader.
Terrible leader. Terrible choice.
You guys are a bunch of wusses.
You guys are going to die if I'm the leader in a haunted house.
Taylor, I do agree, though. Villains Land would be the answer to Dark Universe. The biggest thing that keeps on coming for me, though, is that you had this big announcement thing happening this weekend. Still no word from Villains Land. Like, I think they're going to see what happens. They're listening to the feedback coming from these team member previews, and then potentially their guests that are going over there for a day of their vacation at Disney World and saying like, "Oh, did you ride Monsters Unchained or did you ride, Yoshi's Adventure?" So I would like to see Villains Land happen, but I'm still very doubtful that it does.
Are you just doubtful because there hasn't really been any news on it?
Yes, because look at what we got since Villains Land was announced. What was it, 2022? I think.
Yeah, it's been in it. Like we've heard about it for a while, and it was officially announced last year.
2 Blue Skies, and then the official announcement. But you haven't gotten anything outside of that. Now you have, here's the demo. Here's what we're doing to research for Cars Land. Here's what Monsters Coasters is going to look like. Here's what we're doing at Smuggler's Run. Here's what we're doing over at the Latin America land for Animal Kingdom. So you're seeing all this
when
stuff
Zootopia is opening. Like they literally gave us a date for the new Zootopia show.
But we don't have anything. We don't even have an idea. We have the villains that are going to be in the land, but that's it.
Do you think they have a direction on like the plan of what they want Villains Land to be? Like as far as rides, as far as restaurants, and
they want it to be a land of villains.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, do you think they're waiting to hear feedback to maybe be like, we need this kind of ride, we need this kind of,
because they haven't mentioned anything like in the concept art, the latest concept art. There's the roller coaster you can see in the bottom, but I mean, there's no announcement of a coaster.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Maybe they're second guessing doing it at Magic Kingdom because maybe they want it to be more adult and scary, and it doesn't really have a place at Magic Kingdom for that.
I think it needs to be somewhere else anyway. But it also makes sense at Magic Kingdom because you have Fantasyland and over in the shadows is the villains.
I think it's going to be a bit before we get any actual detail on it, just because I'm thinking from a marketing perspective, we already know that all of this other stuff is in the works right here, right now. We're getting details. We have dates. They can't just put it all out at once because then the excitement's going to fizzle down. So right now they just have us on our toes and we're sitting back and we're waiting, which from our perspective is hard because people might push their vacations back and wait for all of it to be open by the time that they go and plan that special first visit or whatever it is. But I get it from that too. They can't give us too much. They have to just spoon feed a little bit at a time because it keeps us excited.
That's what I was thinking, Taylor. But then I was thinking they probably have to keep some stuff under wraps. 1, so they're not guaranteed they're not tied to a deadline. And 2, they don't want to give all of everything away.
It's going to be like Pandora. Pandora was announced in 2011. It took like 8 years to build this thing. So it's going to be the same way with Villains Land. I just hope it doesn't disappoint when it happens.
Disney also knows what they're up against with Universal too now. I mean, if you think about Wizarding World of Harry Potter, that was pitched first for Disney, and look what ended up happening. I always loved Universal, but that truly put it on the map, and it made it a vacation destination and not just a one-day add-on to your Orlando trip elsewhere. So I don't know. I don't think that Disney is waiting to see necessarily what happens with Dark Universe because they know. They definitely do. They just can't give us too much too soon. That's what my thought is.
See, I also think that if you're ever waiting for Disney to finish a project before you plan your next trip, then you're constantly going to be waiting. Because the one thing about Disney is that they're ever changing all the time. Like there's always something in production. There's always something new. There's always something closing or the last show of whatever. So while you do want to wait and hit all your high points, as much as you can, if you wait forever, then you're never going to get there. Wait, just put something in your brain. It's like, okay, as soon as, Tron is done, since that's done, okay, now I want to go because that's what I was looking forward to the most. I would give people that advice and then in 4 or 5 years, if you don't think you're like an every year and every other year kind of Disney family, then wait 4 or 5 years and then go for the next round of updates. But Disney's I don't think I've ever been to Disney when I haven't seen walls up somewhere, where they're changing or building something new or updating all the time, which is good. It keeps everything fresh.
With that, Universal did release a video. I can't remember if it was later last week or earlier this week, where they talked about how fun it's been for them to do and design and get to build Epic Universe. But they've mentioned that they're already working on new experiences for the current parks and for Epic Universe, which I think is a great thing because you're not being short-sighted, right? You're not just saying, hey, we're opening Epic Universe and we're done. We're going to keep pushing Disney to answer us, whether it's a small chintzy ride like Fast and Furious or something big like another coaster or something like that. Universal knows what they have to do to continue to compete with Disney. I mentioned to some friends, I said, I think Universal might actually have a expansion open before Disney opens one of these things we've gotten, just because Universal knows what they have to do to stay in this game.
I think that's only going to benefit us, though, because the competition between the two is only going to make each one try to outdo the other with rides or discounts or whatever it takes to get people in the parks. And I think, in the end, the consumer will probably win out because Disney, I think for a long time, like Taylor said, they didn't really feel like they had competition with Universal. It was a day you tacked on to your Disney trip. You didn't tack on Disney to your Universal trip. But now if fewer people go in, the gate to the left, but they're now going to the gate to the right, then I think that's going to cause Disney, like you said, to maybe change their vision on how their building and expanding of their park should be. And then we will hopefully benefit from all of their competition between each other.
Very much agree. Like you see where Harry Potter, like Taylor had said earlier, it's that put them on the map. And Comcast knows this. Comcast knows that Harry Potter brings money into those parks. So they're just throwing money at Harry Potter at this point. They're throwing money at the theme parks to just do what you can so that you can make more money. And then Disney in turn has to answer in some way, whether it's a Villains Land, whether it's Latin America or a new theme park, which I still don't think is going to happen there. But one day Disney's going to have the confidence that they need to have again of we have the better park. I think right now they're just trying to play catch up a lot. Let's go to a quick commercial break and we will come back and talk Run Disney.
Are you dreaming of your next adventure but overwhelmed by planning? Magical Travel has you covered. With over 22 years in the business, we specialize in Disney destinations, Universal Studios, cruise vacations, and all-inclusive resort getaways. Our services are 100% complimentary when you book a vacation package with one of our knowledgeable agents. Request a free quote to start the planning process at www.magicaltravel.com. Mention our podcast to be connected with one of our agents you are listening to.
And we're back. We're going to talk about some Run Disney. I kind of surprised the ladies in our text group because they were asking for pictures for Run Disney. Rachel was like, well, just text Taylor. She has some. And I'm like, well, I have some. And they were like, no, you don't. I sent them a picture of me finishing a half marathon. Run Disney was something that got me in the mood to run, to lose weight because I was spending a lot of money to do it. So I did it for a few years. I haven't done it since pre-COVID, but Taylor has done her first Run Disney race, and she did the Princess Weekend in this past February. Taylor, can you tell us a little bit about Run Disney and your experience getting involved with it?
Yeah, so Run Disney is actually pretty difficult to get involved with just because it's grown so much. I've known about Run Disney for a really, really long time. I just have never been into running until I moved to Florida. So this was still kind of my way to stay motivated to run and get involved. I signed up for this Princess Weekend that I just ran last month in the beginning of summer last year. So you really are committing to this process and you're paying a pretty penny also to be involved in these races. So what really draws me to it is just being able to experience the parks in a different way. That's always my favorite thing to do. I've experienced the parks as a kid, as an adult, as a cast member, now as a runner. So it's just a really cool, unique way to get yourself in the parks and do something that really not many people get the opportunity to do there. So that's really what drew me to it. And I'm already signed up for my next one in October. So it's addicting. I will say that once you're in, you want to stay in type of thing.
I will agree with you very much so on the addictiveness, because you hear about the runner's high, right? And when you go into the race and you're running and then you come through the finish line and you're just like so proud of what you've accomplished that you're ready for the next one. And Disney races are so different because you have the characters on the sideline. You're running through the parks, like you said, and you're with all these people who are Disney lovers first and most likely runners second. When it comes to registration, it makes it hard. As we're recording this, Marathon Weekend had just opened up on Tuesday. Like I have said, I have not run Disney for a while. Taylor, you said you were trying to get in. Were you successful? How long did you wait? Can you go ahead and even when you talk about it, like what was your experience with Princess registering for that? What's
the process? You said it's a pretty penny and everything. So what's the process? Like if someone listening wants to register for next year's race in February, what do they have to do?
Definitely. So you have to be on before the minute that registration opens. Otherwise, you have absolutely zero chance of even thinking about wanting to run any of these races. So my experience was pretty different actually between registering last summer for Princess Weekend versus attempting to register for Marathon Weekend. I was not successful, unfortunately. But there's a virtual queue process. So obviously we know that Disney loves its virtual queues, so none of us are strangers to that at this point. But this is a little bit different because it's pretty random. So what happens is they typically open up the virtual queue about 10 to 15 minutes before the actual registration time starts, which is usually 10 a.m. on a Tuesday. So if you're not within that time frame and entering that waiting room, you don't get assigned to the virtual queue. So if you wait until 10 a.m., just like we used to wait until 7 a.m. right on the dot to enter Rise of the Resistance when it had it or Cosmic Rewind when it had it, you're too late by that point. So you enter this waiting room 10 to 15 minutes before, and then as soon as 10 a.m. hits, if you're in Eastern time, obviously, you then get randomly assigned an order in this virtual queue. So typically everyone is going to see more than an hour on their screen when the queue first opens. For some people, that bar is going to move really quickly. If you get in with like a half hour or so, you likely will get a spot for whatever race it is that you're registering for. If you're not, it's going to be sold out by the time that you get through. All of the races for Marathon Weekend, including the Dopey Challenge, which is running a 5K, a 10K, a half marathon, and a marathon, 4 days straight, no breaks between, was sold out by the time that I got through. And I had blocked my schedule. I work full time during the day. I had rearranged my meetings and things like that to get in, and I was not successful. So unfortunately, Disney doesn't care how much you want to run these races or, if you've ran before, it's just luck of the draw. So Marathon Weekend is definitely the most popular though. So I was more successful with Princess. I was able to get right in. It's definitely something to keep in mind. If you want that Dopey Challenge or that marathon, it's your only weekend to do it. So it's going to be a whole lot more difficult to get in.
And there's only two ways to really skip the virtual line. The first one is to be part of Club Run Disney, which is a paid subscription every year. There's 3 different levels, I think, or 4 different levels, and you're guaranteed at least one race. So you can pick which one you want to be in and you automatically get entry for it. The other way is if you're a perfect, which means that you've run the first 5 events of that weekend. So I have a friend that's a perfect princess and she's a perfect dopey. So she's run every princess weekend half marathon. She's run every dopey since it's been official. So she gets early access into those. Naturally, right now, you're not going to have anybody perfect because if it's your first time running, because you can't get into a brand new race anymore. All these races are pre-existing. I was a perfect dark side. I had done the first 3 that they had done. They switched it to Star Wars. They did Dark Side and they changed the race name and then it started over again. And then it started over again when summertime came along. Another way to get into the race, if you've missed it, is to do charity events. You can run with a charity, raise some money. Usually it's, the price of the race plus, $200 or $300 extra. I ran one race with a charity. It was the Expedition Everest. It was my first one. Is the second last one they did. And that was fun because when it was Team Noah's for children's brain cancer. So you knew what you were running for. We wore shirts that said Team Noah and all that stuff. And it was just great knowing that we were helping another cause. And most of the Run Disney races do have their own cause they go to. This one you knew you were giving straight to.
That's actually how I'm registered for the Wine and Dine 10K in October. I have a charity bid through the American Cancer Society because that was a really personal cause to me, just having lost multiple of my family members, unfortunately, to cancer for the course of my lifetime. So really how they market that is it's a way to make your miles more magical and more meaningful. So for me, I wasn't able to register the day that Wine and Dine opened because I hadn't even run Princess yet. So I was like, I don't want to commit to any more of these if this isn't going to be for me. But of course, no shock, really. It was amazing. I wanted to do it again. So I was like, all right, let me think about entering this a different way. And it was really personal for me. And I'm almost at my fundraising goal already. So it's definitely another way to consider entering, especially if you can find a cause that means a lot to you, because it makes it more meaningful and it makes it a whole lot easier to be motivated for fundraising as well.
Let's talk about Expo. So when you get down there, what's the Expo like? Packet pickup, everything. Like it's all this is done at the ESPN Wide World of Sports. Now every hotel has transportation for the weekend to the Wide World of Sports. Back in the day, it used to be select hotels. So you wanted to stay at like French Quarter because they were one of the only ones. But now you get to ESPN no matter what. Can you talk about the experience you had with the Expo, with merchandise, if you walked around the big Expo or anything like that?
Yeah, so I did a little bit of research on what the Expo experience would be like, but I will be honest and say that I did not do enough because it was a whole lot more than I could have ever expected. So definitely do your research or come to somebody like myself who's done it before and can guide you through it. The most research that I did was, of course, no shock for me about how to get all of the merch that I wanted. So if you go to the expo on the day that it opens, which is usually the Thursday of that race weekend, you do have to enter a virtual queue to be able to get into the whole merch area, which is the Advent Health Arena at ESPN. So I was able to get right on. I think it dropped at 7 a.m. or so. You do have to be within 45 miles of Walt Disney World to be able to enter that queue. So even though I live pretty close, I live in Tampa, I got a hotel the night before. So that way I was close enough to get into the virtual queue because that's how much I wanted to prioritize this Disney Princess merch. So I was able to do that. You get in and you have to grab everything that you want right then and there because it sells out so quick. So depending on what it is that you're looking for, apparel, ornaments, ears, spirit jerseys, they've got it all. And they've got it for just the generic marathon weekend or half marathon weekend, but they've also got it for each of the races specifically. So I ran the 10K, it was Jasmine themed, so I picked up some of the 10K merch, and I also picked up some of just the more generic things for the weekend. But it was chaotic in there, not gonna lie. I was just picking up everything in sizes that I thought would fit, and then you just see everybody just park on the floor in the front or the back and go through everything and make your yes, your no, and your maybe pile and hope that you didn't go over whatever budget you may have set for yourself because at that point, it's too late to even think about it.
I will hop in right quick and just say like the merchandise for Run Disney is so popular because it's not exclusive for the runners. That's the biggest complaint that I've seen in a lot of the Run Disney groups is that they don't prioritize the runners. Anybody can get into the merchandise queue. Anybody can buy just this stuff, and there's really no quantity limits that they actually go by. So you have the Facebook buyers, the personal shoppers, and the eBayers coming in and buying as much as they can, and then going back and selling it. So the virtual queue helps a little bit with it, but this kind of sucks because that shirt that you want that said, I'm a finisher for your race, and it sold out because the person who didn't run it picked 50 of them up so they could sell it on eBay.
Yeah, it's definitely like the Hunger Games in there, truly. And that's just one of the buildings that you're going into. So with bib pickup, that puts you into a different, really large building that also had some different photo ops with each of like the distances that you could be running. They had characters, of course, themed to each of the races. I think I saw Mushu there because Mulan was the 5K. Of course, Jasmine and Aladdin were there representing the 10K. And that line, I swear, was longer than as an annual pass holder, any line that I've waited in for an attraction thus far in 2025 at Disney World. It is a process. We really went in. I ran the race with some of my girlfriends. We went in thinking we were going to be in and out, and we were about to go rope drop Disney Springs after to get Gideon's. This was like going to the park for at least half of the day. So do prepare for long lines, even though you're not at a theme park. I was saying by the end of our time there that ESPN is my least favorite theme park as a result of that. And that's just 2/3 of your experience because you haven't yet gone into the main expo building, which is where you'll get your t-shirt that you get for registration as well. So it's Disney. They're very strategic. They want you to look at everything. So they separate where you go and pick up your bib from your shirt versus where they have the merch for you. So that expo building was really overwhelming, I will say. I wish that I did that first versus last because there's a lot of people. There's a lot to look at, especially if you're a newer runner like myself. I really wanted to check everything out and get a good look at it and figure out what electrolytes I was going to pick up and what shoes I needed and things like that. So I do wish that I went in when it was a little bit less crowded, or maybe even if I had gone back the next day and done that separately. So definitely prepare for some crowds. It definitely feels like Disney, even though you're not within a theme park. And do more research than I did because I was not expecting any of that, I will definitely say.
That expo was always like when I first started doing it, the Disney merch was in the big expo spot. They had just opened the Advent Center. So I only went in there once to pick up my stuff. And it was just a nightmare every time because Disney merch was over there back behind where the t-shirts pickup was. I don't know how it's laid out now, but it was always on the back side. And you had to go through all that stuff and get it. And then, trying to wind through all the vendors and, they have people talking. So like Jeff Galloway, who's like the big Run Disney runner, he comes up and does some speaking. Different health people will come up there and talk. And it's fun. And you get to see what everybody's buying that you might not see it in your house. A lot of the, Disney, not branded, but Disney themed clothes are in there that Bippity Boppity Brooke is a big Run Disney person, and she's in the expo now. So it's good to see those type of things where you can get not official Disney stuff, but still Disney.
Yeah, it was really cool experience, but it was very cool for sure.
I'd have a question or a couple questions for Taylor. You said it costs a pretty penny. So what is if I've never Googled it, what's the average cost? I don't know if it varies by race or by weekend, or if you don't mind sharing.
Yeah, it does vary by race. So the 10K, that's all that I've ever done with Run Disney. It was about $160. If we're thinking of like the Dopey Challenge, that's the most expensive that you'll ever register for because it's 4 races and it's actually 6 medals, not just 4. And that one I want to say is upwards of like $400, $500, $600. So it definitely depends on what you're registering for. The more miles you're running, the more money it's going to cost.
Gotcha.
And the shorter the distance you're running, the faster it's going to sell out. So if you're wanting to do a 5K, for example, you are, just holding out hope left and right for like weeks, months in advance because it's extremely difficult to get into a 5K because there's no pace requirement for that either. So you could crawl The 5K realistically, if you
walk
wanted
it.
to, and you're not going to be taking. Yeah, with the 10K up, there's a pace requirement, and you will get taken off the course if you're not able to maintain that because of the balloon ladies, which I'm sure anyone who's ever heard of runDisney before is familiar with the balloon ladies. They're definitely infamous in their own way.
What are the balloon ladies? For anyone that doesn't know.
The back of the pack, and they hold the pace requirement, which is usually 16 minutes per mile. So they literally walk around with the Disney balloons that they hold on to, the ones with Mickey inside, different colors, and they're marked that they're walking a 16-minute mile. And if they pass you, that's not good. That means that you're going to get and you're going to be taken off of the course. So people will take their pictures with them at the end. I swear it's like another character meet and greet. Like if you beat the balloon ladies and didn't get swept off of the course, that's a big. So, but 16-minute pace is what's required for the 10K and above.
I would get swept off the course so fast.
They attach the balloons to me and fly me away. Like, go away.
I have personal experience with the balloon ladies. So they actually start at the very end of the corral, the last corral. The time for the Run Disney race, while officially starts when the first person crosses the start line, the pace requirements don't start until the last person crosses the start line. So the balloon ladies will hold that 16-minute mile the entire time, but it doesn't start until they actually cross it. My very first full half marathon, if that makes sense, because my first half marathon was actually wine and dine. It was the last one at night, and they had cut the course in half because of a storm at Animal Kingdom. So I ran a half of a half. I was severely overweight and undertrained, and the balloon ladies passed me outside of Animal Kingdom, and they're like, "We are 16-minute miles. Y'all better speed up or not, or you get swept." And they kept going, and they were very nice about it. They try to encourage you and everything. And then the police on the bike, security on the bikes, they come up and they're like, "Hey, y'all need to get going because the bus is right behind you. And if the bus catches up to you, you are in the bus." Luckily, I was able to turn off that year. Dark Side ended in ESPN. So if you turned off onto the dirt road to go to ESPN, you were safe. I turned off on that dirt road, and that was my first half marathon finish as a very not prepared person. So I was very prepared the next year. They are super nice. The reason 5K isn't usually paced is it takes place inside of Epcot. You run around I think it's the parking lot, and then you go into Epcot, you finish outside of Epcot. So they have full control over the 5K course. They don't have to worry about opening roads, closing roads, or anything like that. After 10K, that's when they have to close a road, and you start actually having to keep paces because you need to open those roads for people to get into the parks. So while we're talking about race day, Taylor, what was your experience with getting up at 1:00 in the morning and your whole routine? Because we know that's the worst part of Run Disney is the early mornings to go and run because you paid to run.
Yeah. So for me, who's not a morning person, I couldn't decide if it was better or worse to get up at 2 in the morning when my alarm went off. Because I was like, oh, I'm a night person. I can do 2 a.m. Well, not when you're expected to run 6.2 miles 3 hours later. So it's a really early or really late night, the way that you look at it. That being said, I definitely recommend you stay at Disney Resort Hotel because I hopped onto the motor coach that they had for us at Old Key West is where we were staying. Didn't have to worry about driving, anything like that. We stopped at Saratoga Springs on the way over to Epcot. And the thing that is important to keep in mind too is you are kind of walking a 5K before you even get to the start line. So if you are training for a Run Disney race, you need to practice doing more miles than you're actually racing for. For anybody that's ever taken the bus into Epcot, you know where that bus station is. You have to go through security in Epcot, and then you have to walk over to the entirely opposite side of the parking lot. That's where everything starts. So I didn't even bother looking at my Apple Watch because I didn't want to know how many steps I had already done before the race even started or before I even got into my corral. But you're doing all of this early in the morning. The sun's not up. The cast members are wonderful. Of course, it's Disney. They're excited to see you. They're cheering you on. I'm like half asleep, full face of makeup, in my Belle outfit. You're making it happen really early in the morning, of course. So that being said, too, it was absolutely freezing. the morning that I ran this race. And yes, I'm a Florida resident. I know everything is kind of freezing to me, but I'm talking like 44 degrees, and I was not dressed for that. So once again, do more research than I did and wear or bring some shed layers. I was very lucky that a friend of mine gave me some Mylar to go ahead and wear because Disney gives you Mylar, but at the end of your race to wrap up and not before it. So what I would recommend is buy some really cheap clothes, put on some clothes that you're willing to donate. Is you take those off while you're racing and put them over to the side of the road, off side the course. Disney actually donates all of that. So it's not going to waste. You're able to stay warm. I didn't know that prior to doing this. I'm very happy that I know now. But stay warm because you're going to be freezing if it's a January or a February race. It is like my biggest tip for any of the winter Run Disney races is it's going to be cold. I don't care that it's Florida. It's definitely going to be cold.
Go ahead and talk about costumes before you get to going into the race. There are some great costumes throughout the race. There are some people who just go all out, and then there are people like me who just wear a t-shirt that's like a Batman shirt or something like that. I saw a guy wearing a sousaphone, or as normal people call it, the tuba, a marching tuba. Yeah, he ran the half marathon and the marathon weekend. So there's some stupid people out there doing crazy things. So if you decide you want to be like that, just wear whatever you want to wear.
Or you could be like Taylor and wear a cute outfit and be Belle.
You'd have to do that.
Yeah. It was Princess Weekend, you have to go big or go home. But, my go big or go home, which was, the gold eyeshadow and the red roses in my hair and the yellow running outfit is not nearly what go big or go home is for a lot of other people. So that's a good point, Jason. If you guys are ever seeing pictures of participants in Run Disney, you are seeing actual costumes. You're seeing, especially for me, with my race being Jasmine themed, there was people dressed up like as the magic carpet. There was people dressed up as Genie. There was one person that was being interviewed at the start line that was right in front of me in Corral D, and he was fully Jafar, like stepped right out of the movie. So people really put a lot into these outfits and costumes. It was not for me. I wanted to be comfortable, obviously, because I'm running an extensive amount of miles, but it's really cool just to kind of people watch and take it all in. Because like Jason said before, these are people that are Disney fans first, and we're also runners. So it's really cool to see both of those kind of mesh together.
And I was always the runner that was like you, I've trained for this. I want to make sure I'm as comfortable as possible. So I'm going to just make sure I finish this race and I do it the best I can. So really no distractions happen for me. I never stopped I've stopped twice for photos. Once was with a speeder bike for Star Wars Dark Side, and once was for the Queen of Hearts on Tower of Terror. I was always the person that just kept running because, and let's be honest, I didn't run the entire time. I did intervals. That was my goal, was to finish, not to take pictures. Well, let's go on to your actual race. Like, What was the course like? What characters did you stop and take pictures with, if you took pictures with them? Anything like that?
Yeah, K-Race is pretty cool. At least I thought it was. I liked the way that it was set up because you're starting in the Epcot parking lot like you pretty much are for everything, and then you're actually out on the road. So you're running underneath like the parking entrance to Epcot, but backwards, of course, because you're starting in the parking lot. You're out on the road, and then you're coming back into the parking lot, and then you're actually going backstage. So from what I could tell where we were at, you're going in like behind where Living with the Land is, you're going behind Soarin', and then you pop into the park right around there. So that's already about half of it done, which is interesting, right? So the first 5K of this 10K race, your first 3 miles or so, you haven't even stepped foot inside of anything exciting. You're not in the boardwalk area yet. You're not inside of the park. But I liked it that way because you're getting more tired. Obviously, the second half. So it was nice to have all of the exciting things inside the parks and around the boardwalk. There was characters, though, everywhere. I honestly thought there were more characters outside on the road and backstage, which makes sense because there's less exciting things to look at. I, like Jason was saying, I didn't stop and take pictures with any of the characters. I just kind of took pictures of them as I went by. And I really enjoyed the experience with that because they know people are doing that. So I have a picture of the Beast. I have a picture of Belle. Of course, that's my favorite. That's why I dressed as Belle. And they were completely posed for me. I have a picture of some more of the rare characters like Sebastian from The Little Mermaid. I mean, when do you see him? Obviously out for meet and greets. So it was cool too that even though I wasn't wanting to get my picture with them, I could get good pictures of them. Now, I did some intervals also, so I was able to kind of stop and get a good picture. It wasn't just, blurry as I went by with my phone up in the air. But that is something to keep in mind, that even if you're not a big character meet and greet person, you can still get really good pictures with them. And I thought that was really cool.
I've always heard that the photo pass people and the friends of the characters, this is one of those big weekends. Like they all fight over these shifts because these are the diehards, and they don't. I mean, we hear about what hug and shove, love and shove in the theme parks when they're getting really long lines, but these are those. But they don't feel like that. You're the one in the hurry. The characters aren't, but they're trying to make it memorable for you, so that when you come back, you like, oh, I really want to do that again. I want to take a picture with the Beast, with Belle, with Sebastian.
This is definitely not the race for PRs, for anybody that is just going to run. And of course, they have people that come in first place and second place, and Disney has beautiful trophies that they ship out for the people that actually win. But what was really difficult for me is, even though I was doing interval running, that's the Jeff Galloway method. I'm sure if anybody's familiar with Run Disney, they know who he is, like Jason was saying before. There's a lot of areas where you're just kind of like bottlenecking into the next part of the course. So that being said, not everybody listens to how you're supposed to be running. So you're not supposed to run more than two people across. And just like we would drive in the US, you're supposed to stay to the right if you're walking and stay to the left if you're passing or if you're running. Not a single person does any of that, except
Not at all.
like me, who's trying to be the rule follower on their first Run Disney in-person race. So there were a lot of points where I knew that I could have kept running, or I wasn't ready to break for a walk yet, or I wasn't stopping for a character, and I had to, because there was no way for me to go around and stay on the course. Because if you step off the course, you're risking getting pulled off of the course. So definitely, if you're one of those like diehard runners and you're not just in it for the experience, I wouldn't recommend Run Disney for you. Like I said, somebody's got to come in first. Obviously, people do, but there's going to be points where you have no choice but to slow down or even come to a stop, just because that's the way that the course is designed. And it's a lot of people that they're trying to fit onto it.
So we mentioned corrals. I was never, I got lucked out into B one time because I knew the right person and they were friends with Run Disney people. So they gave us B corral so we could go up to the front. But usually I was in the lower ones. You have the elite corral. So those of your Boston Marathon runners and all those things who are going to be your first, second place type people. Those are actually going to compete. And then after a certain amount, you actually have to prove your time when you submit so you can get into those higher things. Naturally, like I said, I'm not that guy. I'm not running a under 10-minute mile. I've never have, never will. So I never had to deal with that. But that's something that you might have to deal with if you're looking to it, and you have to have a qualifying race. So it has to be a Boston qualifier race that you submit your proof of time with, so that Disney will put you in one of those higher corrals. Just for reference, if you're one of those fast runners. You put a donut in front of me, I might be able to run that fast, but not now. I think the best thing that Disney does with the Disney Touch is the last person is celebrated just as much as first place when you cross.
I love that.
Yeah.
So Mickey, Minnie, I saw the video for Princess Half, I think this year, where Mickey, Minnie, Daisy, and Donald went and grabbed the last place person, last finisher, not last place, and walked them through the finish line. They got confetti and all that stuff. So it's the fact that Disney still celebrates that they finished is a great little thing. So, you can strive to be the last person if you want to.
Is that what you did?
I didn't strive to be the last person. I strive just to not die.
Cool. And they have a whole like family reunion area at the finish line as well. So it's pretty overwhelming in the best way possible when you do finish the race, because there's grandstands up that your friends and family can come watch you cross the finish line. Of course, the characters are there depending on what races that you're running. There's photo pass at the end. But there's also just a ton of people giving you things left and right. So of course you're going to get your medal for finishing. You're going to get your Mylar, so that way you can warm back up from the 44-degree in the darkness morning like it was for me. And then you're going to get your little snack pack. So you get a bottle of water, you can get Gatorade. They give you a banana, as they do with every single race everywhere. But you also get just a variety of other snacks. There was like what was it, like gummy candies in there, and
Get the plastic cheese.
plastic cheese that everybody raves about, of course. It's really just salt in a cup, but exactly what you need after you run a race like that. So it's really overwhelming. And that whole area that you exit back out to is near where you start. So one of my friends was waiting for myself and my other friends that were actually in a crowd behind me. So it was cool just to say, hey, where in the parking lot are you? Oh, I'm at, Gamora 304. And I was able to meet up with her, and she brought me my jacket and things like that. So there's a lot of opportunity for like celebration at the end, which is very on theme with Disney, as we know, but it feels really cool.
I love that they include like family members being able to cheer, people on. I think that's just great that they have that opportunity for people.
We didn't mention it beforehand, but it is a big party post. It's a big party pre too. They have a DJ up there who's helping you dance, warm up, trying to do different things to make sure you're loose and limber. They're the most porta potties I have ever seen one space is a Run Disney race, and it's lining the whole outside of a corral. And then you go into the runners only area, and there's like 10,000 more porta potties. I'm like, good night. And then naturally you have that stuff on the course. Water, first aid, and snacks are provided on the longer races. I know water's provided on the short races. I don't know about snacks on the 10K.
No snacks on the 10K, but we did have water, I believe, at least twice. And first aid was out around miles 2 and 4, I want to say.
And then you have a big med tent when you come across the finish line if you need them. And I did need them that time. I barely finished because of fat guy and bad knees. Obviously you're doing it again in October. Do you plan on really going out and trying to do any of these other big races? There's 2 in Disneyland. You have the Halloween one, and then you have Disneyland half marathon. Those are the only 2, and they're only half marathons out there. And then you have 4 here in Florida, right? The summertime Disney World Marathon, Princess, and Wine and Dine, right?
Yeah. They also have a virtual series, which I wanted to talk about also, because I had actually done a virtual series back during COVID in 2020. So that was like my true first Run Disney experience, but it wasn't in person, of course. So if you're somebody who's like, yeah, this sounds great, you love the medals, perhaps that's what sold me on the virtual one. I have a Space Mountain themed 5K medal from Run Disney. That's a great way to kind of dip your toes into it, but at your own speed, like literally. So if you wanted to do the 5K, just 1 mile, 3 days in a row, and then submit that to Run Disney, they're still going to send you your medal. So it's a great way to just see if running is for you, or walking if you're doing the 5K, because you can still do that in person. So I would definitely encourage that. You do a virtual summer series, at least through Walt Disney World, and they'll do like a 5K in June, July, and August. So I believe they do one in February now too. It's like the February 14 miler or something like that, which just passed too.
And then they do the 12 Days of Christmas. Was a new one they did.
Yeah.
So that was like 2 miles or something like that for 12 days. Little note, you don't have to submit your mileage to Disney. They still send you the medals. Bethany did it one year.
Yeah, you can be on the honor system.
We have a lot of the medals. Because I did it for Lion King year because I wanted theirs. I get the attractions year, and I did the 100 year because I liked all the medals, and I bought them, and I went and did my little walk around and everything like that to get them. But
yeah, the medals are really nice. I was honestly shocked with how heavy it was and how good the quality was. I've run a handful of other races just in my local area in Tampa, and I was really impressed with those medals. So when I had a Disney one in my hand, I was like, oh my gosh, no wonder I paid $160 for this. Probably cost me the medal.
And not saying that you should do this, but if you do get swept, you do receive your medal still. There are stigmas in the run community of displaying medals you didn't earn. But there are people who do go out there and know they're going to get swept, but they pay the $100 for whatever race just for the medal. They'll get on that bus and go across the finish line and get their medal. So you'll still get something even if you don't really run the race.
Yeah. It's really inclusive kind of a vibe. I mean, it's Disney, right? So we wouldn't really expect anything else.
Let's just hit right quick on how this affects people who might be going on vacation and didn't realize there's a Run Disney event. When it comes to the 5K, like I said earlier, there's not much you're going to be delayed or anything because they try to focus it around Epcot. but the biggest one being marathon weekend that really puts a hampering in on getting around the parks. How should we plan when there's a Run Disney event?
I was there in November and there was a Run Disney event, and it personally didn't affect like our trip. There were signs up that said like if you're doing the Run Disney thing, like this is where the bus picks up. Like they had all that stuff there, but like personally while we were there, it didn't seem more crowded. It didn't affect the things that were going on for us. So I don't know if it's because I wasn't looking for it or trying to see, or we just weren't in the same area as the races were. But thankfully that weekend in November, because what race do they run in November? Is it the Wine and Dine?
Yeah.
Or yeah. So it must have been that one that we were there in November. And it didn't like affect us at all. Like I think we were kind of getting there in the middle of all of that when we landed and like all the signs were up. But it was nice to see the different things. And I saw people like in the parks with their medals, taking their pictures in front of the castle and doing all that. Like some people had 2 or 3 medals, some people only had 1. And it was kind of fun to see that. And people like in their actual race clothes, like then in the parks afterwards, like, and we were telling those people congratulations because they just ran a race and they did all that. And now they're in the parks walking around and also doing an additional 20,000 steps that day, doing a park day.
It definitely is like as in your face or not in your face as you make of it. So I think a lot of that depends on where you stay. So I was staying with friends at Disney's Old Key West Resort, which is in the Disney Springs area. And that's just very much a low-key resort. Definitely one of my new favorites. That was my first time I stayed there. So they had like a little club kind of set up lounge situation for Run Disney. They had photo props out for us. They had obviously all the transportation info set up. So it's there, but it's not in your face, like you're saying, Micah. So I would say it's more so going to impact the people that may be staying off-site or are choosing to drive their own vehicles or rental cars to the parks. I know I had clients that were visiting Walt Disney World during Princess Weekend while I was there, and they were staying off-site because they were visiting friends and family, and I definitely gave them a heads up because I knew that they wanted to do some rope dropping. And I was like, hey, World Drive, which is one of the main roads that goes into Walt Disney World for anybody that drives, it's closed for a lot of it, especially if we're thinking of the half marathon and the marathon. I mean, with the marathon, the parks are open during a lot of that. I mean, if you're in one of those later corrals, you are running through these parks where everybody else is in them and they're watching you. So if you're wanting to rope drop, I would say take Disney transportation if you can, or it may not be happening for you the way that you're thinking about it. So definitely be aware of when those weekends do happen. But it is really magical just to see everybody out there with their medals. They do this whole unofficial like Medal Monday. So that's usually the day that the race weekends end and everybody's in the parks wearing all of the medals that they have won. Definitely in their race clothes. I went to breakfast at Magic Kingdom with some of my friends. I went to the Crystal Palace, still completely in everything that I wore, bib and everything. I ran into a couple of our agents, Renee and Heather, and took pictures with them, still in my race clothes. So it's definitely, like I said, as in your face as you want it to be. But it was really cool. It's kind of like wearing a celebration button, but like on steroids when you have your medal on when you're in the pool, because everybody is coming up to you, which is really cool.
I'll say that probably, and it goes back to what Taylor was saying, the biggest thing that you're going to see with your vacation interruptions with run weekends is marathon, because it's a 6-hour race for most people. And that's the biggest race of, I think it's 20 to 30,000 runners. Parks being open, your runners are running through like Epcot and whatnot. They are directing. They have cast members set in places where these runners can run across the path. So you'll get backups. The traffic will get real bad because even with Disney transportation, you'll have to go down what's usually a 2 or 3 lane road, and it's down to 1 lane because they've marked off 2 for these runners to go through. So just go ahead and, like what was said, plan that you need to get on that transportation maybe 15, 20 minutes earlier just to make sure you're getting to someplace if it's early in the morning on a half marathon. Usually half marathons are on Sunday. The title race is the Sunday race. So marathon weekend, it's actually marathon on Sunday. But that's the big thing. Just 15, 20 minutes before, get on that bus and go. because usually they'll try to get Disney transportation going the back ways into places to get you there faster. And you can't get that way through your own personal car. Well, Taylor, do you have anything else to add?
I would say if you've ever thought about doing runDisney, definitely give it a shot. It's really unique just because it's not about, like I said, getting the PR. I mean, yeah, try not to get swept type of thing, but you're really in it for the experience. You're not in it to come in first type of thing. So even if you're not a runner or you're thinking about becoming one, I mean, you could take my path and that could help you become a runner. I had done races prior to starting runDisney and my experience there, but it definitely makes you want to continue and do even better the next time. I went into this 10K without any training, which was okay for me, fortunately, because I've done races before, but I would not necessarily recommend that for that length of a race for anybody. So that was just kind of my goal going into October, is I want to outdo myself next time and see what it's like to go in with some training. And perhaps that speeds up my intervals or allows me to run the whole thing straight through, whatever it may be. So if you're thinking about it, definitely give it a shot, but I'll see you in the virtual queue because it's hard to get in.
I noticed your shirt says 10K at the top. That's the only part I can see. Is that part of the merch you got while you were there? I love it.
Yes, so this
Super
was the
cute.
shirt that was given to you as part of your registration. So it has runDisney on the side. I know we're on a podcast, obviously, not everybody can see, but and then the back has all the different sponsors. So yes, this is gifted to you. I mean, you're paying for it in your registration, but you get this with your bib pickup.
But it's a cute shirt. You know, sometimes the shirts people or things gift you are not so cute. You're just like, thanks, whatever. But no, that one's really cute. I like it.
Yeah, it's a nice like dry fit material too. So definitely one that you can keep running in.
Well, Taylor, we really appreciate you coming on today and talking about your runDisney experience.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Can you tell us where to get a hold of you so that we can help the plan, or you can help plan your next runDisney race or Disney vacation, Universal vacation?
Yeah, absolutely. So the best place to find me is going to be on Facebook, which is just my first and last name, Taylor O'Rourke with Magical Travel. Email, you can reach out to me there, taylor@magicaltravel.com. I would love to help you guys out, whether it be for runDisney or Disney World, Disneyland, Universal, cruise, anything in between. I've got expertise in it all, so let me know. I would love to help you guys out.
We'll have all that information in the show notes. And if you want to reach any of us, you can go to magicaltravel.com and we'll be attached to either any of us or one of our agents for a no obligation quote. The next episode we're going to do is we promised Siobhan like 2 episodes ago, and she actually bailed on us last time. This is the call out. This is supposed to be her big 5th episode, get the jacket and everything, and she bailed on it. So we're going to give her a second chance to come and do beaches and sandals. If not, then we'll figure out what we're going to talk about. Rachel will talk about beaches and sandals then with us.
Yeah.
She just got back not too long ago, and Siobhan just got back last week. So
last night.
Yeah,
wow.
Some of us have never been. So we got conversations.
Yeah, that was my third one that I've stayed at. I went to the other 2 sandals in St. Lucia because you can stay at 1 and play at 3.
So that should be a good episode.
Yeah.
Especially if you're getting tired of hearing us talk about Disney and Universal a lot lately. So as always, please share our podcast and rate us and give us a review on what you want to hear. And until next time, we'll see you later.
Bye.